You happy that you're here and coming up. The reason the family leader gets involved with the parents who have chosen to homeschool their children, it's our way just to say thank you. Thank you for doing what you do and taking that parental responsibility very, very serious. Because we at the family leader, we do believe it is the parents' right, it is the parents' privilege to raise and nurture your children, not the government's right to raise and nurture your children. That being said, allow me to be very brief. How many of you would like to have things your way and on your terms, no matter what it is, but I'd like to have it my way? Any of you like to have it your way? I think we all like to have it our way. Matter of fact, that is kind of our human nature, where there's no rules, there's no boundaries, there's no parameters, but I want what's ever best for me. And we live in a culture today that says it's all about me, it's all about me, it's all about me. As a matter of fact, we continue to deal with that it's all about me in the policies that we make and the policies that we pass when it becomes all about me. And that is, quite frankly, our human nature. But our founders had it pretty good, and they understood this when they said, if it's all about me all the time, and there's a lot of me's that make up a culture, that make up a society, we're going to have absolute chaos if it's all about me. Because Bob is going to be different than Chuck, and Chuck is going to be different than Mary, and Mary's going to be different than Sam, and Sam's going to be different than Matt. And pretty soon there's a lot of me's that we got to worry about. That's human nature. That's why in the Charter, the Declaration of Independence, they said it will be built upon the laws of nature and the laws of nature's God. That would be our unifying standpoint. That would be what people would rally around. That would be the blueprint for this culture. God's principles, God's precepts. That's what unifies us. That is for ultimate blessing. But that's not where we're at today. Matter of fact, the founders went on and they said in order for this thing called a republic, in order for it to survive, in order for it to thrive, it hinges on two inseparable rungs. Religion and morality. Religion meaning that we recognize that there is a God. And we're not it. We're not Him. There is a God and we are not Him. But two is, it recognizes morality, that if we are going to be a self-governing people, that we need to live according to a moral code. And there comes, and there intersects this age-old question of either God is or God isn't. And when it becomes all about me, what we're really saying is God isn't. Instead of approaching God and His throne, we're inviting God to our throne because it's all about me. And that will mess up a culture quickly. And our founders understood that. And that's why I wrote the book and the family leader launched this initiative called If 7:14. How many of you ever heard the verse 2 Chronicles 7:14? Have you ever heard that verse? You know, we hear it all the time. Matter of fact, if we go back in time, we'll see Billy Graham talking about 2 Chronicles 7:14. And a lot of leaders in between that time, matter of fact, Ben Carson, which launched him onto the national stage, is when he was invited to speak at the National Prayer Breakfast, and right off to his right was President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama. And he recited the verse, 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves, and if they'll pray, and they'll seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways, then I'll hear from heaven, then I'll forgive their sins, and then I'll heal their land. We've heard that verse a lot. But the problem is we hear the verse a lot, but we seldomly apply the verse. And that's why I wrote the book If 7:14, because God starts off that verse, that scripture, with the word if. And the if says there's a decision to make. It transfers the responsibility. About that we need to make that decision. If you're a parent, and most of you are in here unless you're a child, You use that phrase with your child. If you eat your green beans, then you'll get ice cream. If you behave in church, then I'll give you the collection I was going to put in the collection. No, we don't say that. But we use if in order to prompt the behavior. God's saying that to his people. If my people will humble themselves, if my people will seek my face, if my people will pray, if my people will turn away from their wicked, or another term, in different ways. There's many people, and I've had the opportunity to travel the country in just the past few weeks and speaking on F714, but there's still a lot of churches, there's a lot of Christians, there's a lot of believers who say, but it does not impact me. If it doesn't impact me, why should I care? Well, that's where Jesus said, I wish you were either hot or cold, but don't be lukewarm, because if you're lukewarm, what does he say he wants to do to you? He wants to spit you out of his mouth. He's saying, be hot or be cold, but you need to care. And God's principles and his precepts are for our good. They're not for our harm. Apply it to foreign policy. If we bless Israel, he blesses us. If we walk away from Israel, he walks away from us. Talk about the economy and our indebtedness. The scripture is clear about the economy and an indebtedness. And we understand that we're only as free as our indebtor allows us to be free. And when China holds our debt, that's a scary situation. Or when you take a look at the next generation, you say we have $17 trillion in debt, and we're willing to pass that on to the next generation because it's not impacting me. That's one of the most immoral things we can do. Or when God says that he creates life, that he knit us together in the mother's womb, that all of our days were planned before one ever came to be, and we say it's okay to extinguish over 55 million babies. That's an issue. Or when God is clear about his design for the family with one man, one woman marriage, from Genesis all the way through Scripture, all the way to Matthew 19, where he says, duh, have you not heard? I created them male and female, and what he joins together, let no man separate. You see, his principles and his precepts, it's for our blessing as a culture, and that's why our founders founded it there. And when we walk away from that and we say it's all about me, that's when we have a problem in our culture. And that's why when you vet these candidates for U.S. Congress and U.S. Senate, and maybe potentially this guy's going to come up and speak after me, maybe a guy for president, we need to be concerned about their worldview. And the worldview is God is, or is God isn't? Because if God isn't, then government's got to be, and then if government's got to be, we have to be beholden to government. And that's going to be a train wreck. Because when we understand where their worldview is, then we can figure out what their leadership is going to be according to all the issues that we're going to face. But we're looking at a worldview, a biblical worldview, a constitutional worldview, where we can have some real leadership today. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to thank you for what you do, living out Deuteronomy 6, where you love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind, and all your strength. And you impress that upon your children in your teaching them, in your nurturing them, in your leading them. You teach them when they wake up in the morning, when you walk with them during the day, and when you put them to bed at night. That's the method of homeschooling. So I would hope and that I would pray that you would answer the if call with us, and that we would turn our individual and our collective hearts back to God, his principle and his precepts for our blessings, for our culture, for such a time as this. May God richly bless you and your conference, and thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you.